on equity, diversity, and inclusion committee meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all committee members are present. Looking for a motion for the July 9th minutes.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the July 9th.
All those in favor? Yeah.
Aye.
All right, excellent. So the only agenda item we have is the budget priorities for our committee. I suggest that first we look through the old ones and strike off anything that we don't want to put forward or has already been discussed or touched on in last year's budget. Is everybody okay with that first? And then after that, we can talk about new ideas. So looking at number one here from last year's budget priorities for this committee, we have $200,000 housing support. Committee recommends creating a comprehensive plan that addresses the unique needs of our unhoused populations that include unhoused shelters, transient, and individuals suffering with addiction, mental health, and physical needs. I guess I can start by saying two things on this number. One is that first, there has been some things at least addressed recently, and it's always been a big priority for a lot of citizens here. And $200,000 is a number that is, more than zero, but not enough to actually take care of the problem. So what do we think about this number one?
I think that in lieu of some of the recent information that we received regarding the housing study, we have conversation regarding the Mod Podge, and also with what happened with some of the recent residents for Sycamore, there was a little bit of a gap on finding some stability there. So I think that it would be reasonable to still keep this as a budget item, just for those type of situations that are coming about.
Good point. Do you want to add anything?
No, I was conflating two issues. We do have our Lansing's Path Forward report, which is a pretty comprehensive study, but that was just on homelessness. So probably worth keeping some of the other housing needs. Well, so this does have this is more focused on unhoused individuals, and that's dated April 2025. So is it necessary to do another? I guess this is just a study. So maybe we should redirect the dollars instead of saying create a comprehensive plan, maybe to implement the recommendations of the Lansing's Path Forward study.
That's a good idea. It sounds like I'm hearing that we want to keep this on here because it's important. It's not, crisis isn't over, and we want to keep it front and center. But yes, I like direct towards implementation. Do we want to, because again, it's a relatively arbitrary number. I don't think that 200,000 represents like a certain project or what we can do. Do we want to keep that number or say something else?
Well, I think we know just alone the Mod Podge are going to cost nearly $1 million a year. So I don't know.
Right. Like what the 200s is so arbitrary. Do we want to strike it and say adequate funding?
I would keep it open without putting a numerical value to it.
Okay. So maybe we keep number one, and instead of the 200,000, we just put adequate funding for housing support, and then it goes on.
Implement.
Yep, implement. We gotta get implement. Yep. Housing support to implement Lansing's Path Forward plan.
What I would say, prioritize resources for housing support to help them to implement Lansing's Path Forward study. And then you can leave the committee recommends or whatever, but
Yep.
I think.
You want to say that for the record?
Yeah, so I would strike just without, you don't need to take the minutes out. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But what I would say is, yeah, I would actually just wipe this out and put housing support committee recommends diverting, or not diverting, directing resources, prioritizing resources to implement Lansing's Path Forward study of April 2025.
And for everybody at home, not that you know everything in that study, but just the bullet points of kind of result.
Yeah, the recommendations are like improve regional collaboration across providers of homeless services, partner to increase access to affordable housing, strengthen housing solutions for people experiencing prolonged homelessness, expand age-appropriate and specialized shelter options, enhance family housing supports, support long-term housing stability for women and vulnerable populations, build on equity progress and address upstream drivers, improve cross-sector coordination, resource alignment, and build public awareness and advocacy capacity.
All right. And that's from the people who were paid to study it. And it sounds reasonable. So
Renee, that's on page, well, it's on the table of contents, but it's page 52 of the Lansing's Path Forward study. So I would maybe put those in the section.
Yep.
Direct resources to prioritize implementation of Lansing's Path Forward, which include the recommendations of.
all right, that's number one. Anything else to talk about at number one there?
Easy peasy, we say,
Nope.
Renee's got to do all the typing.
Right.
Yes. Number two, $100,000 DEI implementation. Committee recommends adding DEI implementation specialists to work alongside DEI officer and department leaders and staff to assist in implementation of DEI strategies.
That has been accomplished internally, it looks like, from the transmittal.
The mayor's transmittal letter
Mhm.
says a reclassification of existing employee in the HRCS department if they continue to focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll strike number two from existence for now, for this coming up year. Number three, $50,000 citizen complaints. Committee recommends creating and deploying a complaint awareness campaign, identifying the citizen complaint process and history of general outcomes. I guess I'll start and say that $50,000, if I recall, was partially for printing things. And the idea is that Lansing has a robust, quote unquote, I'll explain that in a second, way of making complaints towards public officials, including police officers. There's the human rights ordinance is one way, but there's also the independent police investigator through the Board of Commissions, Police Board of Commissions, who's supposed to be able to review and come to an independent outcome supposedly. But the truth is, although we hear about a lot of complaints in, the public or through third people about this, or the police did this, it was wrong, or I feel like my rights were violated, we don't see very many at all formal complaints. So last year we thought that it would be a good idea to, since it's available, to try to let people know. Does anybody know what happened to that?
As far as my understanding, that was HRCS was still looking to see how to actively campaign that outward. It's still in process, but I don't have the details as far as where it stands. But it was an ongoing conversation.
Okay. Anything to add on that? Was there so if I don't have it right up, the mayor's,
It wasn't in the
That
transmittal
wasn't.
letter.
okay. If I recall, one of the costs was, because one thing we were gonna do is put how Lansing Police has a card, like a business card that says their name, their phone number, their email, and all those things, and serve and protect. On the back would be incident number, but also how to file a complaint. Like if you feel like, you can, and then shortly. So I think assistant city attorney, if you even know, Was that cost for printing or something else, or are we not sure?
I don't know. I can try to get an answer, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Sure. And it's not that it would be your area, but
Were the printing, was that something we added in Cal?
I'm trying to kind of having a blank
I
of
think
like,
it was added at the day. Times.
And I thought it was already executed where it was added.
Right.
on the material.
Yeah, this was something else other than that.
So-
It never serves.
I think this was more so for getting out into communities to cascade the proper way
that's right.
of making a citizen's complaint.
I would suggest or discuss that since it's a low amount of money and we don't know whether and if anything really happened, keep it on there for now. So that, you know, the mayor in his budget proposal can either say, you know, we did this or we didn't have enough to do this, and then you guys can go from there. Any second ideas? So we'll just keep number 3 on there because, I mean, even the updates this year, there was not many formal complaints through those channels. Assistant City Attorney, do you know, or have you even heard of any complaints or would have any access to the amount?
I don't know. I know that in the minutes for the police board, there's usually a description given of complaints received, complaints cleared, that kind of thing, but that's about all that I'm aware of.
Would you, and if you know, would you say that that part of the agenda actually had substance on it, or was it kind of like a part of the agenda where there's nothing below it because there was none?
From staffing those meetings, I will say there is generally a report of X number received, X number cleared, exonerated, whatever, but there's not a great detail gone into because many of those complaints ultimately involve IA investigations, which involve all kinds of potentially sensitive material. So since it's an open meeting, it really is kind of a very basic complaints received, cleared type of information provided.
All right. Well, the last thing I'll say on that is just when you said IA, internal affairs, which is how the police and other departments, but usually police, handle misconduct within their own thing. So someone's rights could be violated and they find out and they do internal affairs and it takes however many months, maybe 3 or however long it takes. It comes back, yes, you did violate rights and your reprimand is a verbal reprimand or a written reprimand. And like in extreme cases, you lose like a day or 2 of pay. So that's just generalizing, but I've seen those type of results. And I've even seen where there will be some wrongdoing and then reprimand, but then the unions get involved and say, no, this is too harsh. And we are appealing and objecting to whatever 90-day suspension, just using a hypothetical. So all I have to say is internal affairs seems like a way for things to go away and stay inside for the future. All right. Number 4. Anybody want to add anything? Number 4. $100,000 Veterans Assistance. Committee recommends adding a Veterans Assistance Specialist to assist veterans in applying for city jobs, access resources, and housing support. Any thoughts?
So with this one, what I can recall is there were some area of opportunities where we've had some veterans come across and state that they don't have individuals that can really hands-on approach and help them when it comes to some of these wraparound services, looking for employment or whatnot. And this would be a liaison individual to assist with that, or put some, or someone within house to help with those individuals.
You might want to add thoughts?
we started to discuss this on the walk-in.
Okay. My question is, should it be veterans assistance or should it be people who need it also assistance? Because I can imagine like there might be people who aren't as familiar. I'm thinking of who aren't as familiar with technology or whatever, and they might need the same help. But I'm okay because veterans is definitely a group of people who, suffer
Forgotten as well.
a lot more proportionately, harm and it affects their lives from some of their service related things. So we want to keep veterans. What happens if a non-veteran needs that same help and asks the same person?
I'm not opposed to changing it either way. I think originally the reason why we were specifying the veterans because of that greater need. But I'm open to making it a little bit more broader, but this will hone in into those, we could work with other community partners who specialize in their
Exactly, veterans.
veterans.
That makes sense. As you were speaking, I was thinking that it would make sense to specialize on veterans potentially. Lost my train of thought, but either way, what do we say? Are we keeping it? Oh, here was my thing. So what about people in the city who could already help with some of these hands-on? Does that exist? I know I don't know. It seems like if somebody really wanted help to apply for anything in the city, that there would be someone to help them.
And we have capital area still that can assist those individuals.
Okay.
Also,
And with the veterans, it might tie into the grants and like you said, the partnerships, because there are that specialized.
yeah, I was trying to think of the name of the organization. I can't think of it off top, but
Esker? No, that's different.
not Esker. Oh gosh.
If you broaden this too much, then it's just a city employee who knows things about
Right.
the city. So
Exactly. That's where I'm kind of getting at. I just wonder like about those other people who are veterans that need that same help.
National Network Organization for Veterans. I've worked with Tanja Simmons, who's CEO and president, and so she cascades all throughout the whole Tri-County of those veterans. And after coming to attending some of her events and meetings, there is a great need.
Okay, well, shall we keep it or should we change the number?
I'm good with keeping it. I'm open to the number. I think that was just a ballpark last year when we were looking at a dollar amount. Or we could just we can strike that like we did for number one and just open it up for the budget to at least focus on veterans assistance.
Open to either of those.
I'm gonna weigh in out of both sides of my mouth if that's possible. I think we should include $1 because these are budget priorities, different than the first one where there's an enormous report that's attached to it. We can't quantify that. We want to, I think, direct resource that. Here we should be identifying what we think this would cost to get the job done. We could go back and do that for number one as well, but it's going to be a multi-million-dollar, multi-year process. So I think while I'll say I think we should always include $1 amount, I think there's a distinction between implementing what we talked about in number one versus what we're talking about here.
Because here is a position that
Right.
they can actually figure out. So, well, yeah, I guess it would be that number. So if it's full-time, it's probably more than 100. But anyway, do we want to add anything about creating partnerships or grant searching because of veterans? It's like, there's probably some national things out there. I just feel like that since we're specializing, that it would, I don't know if their job would be to also bring in the resources from outside.
I think that will go hand in hand with the partnership piece. I think that would be a great assistance with those individuals, even the grant searching, honestly. I mean, more hands on deck to really bring in those dollars if necessary.
So do we want to add that to number 4 description? Or something about
Grant
after
research.
and housing support? Or like fit in partnership and grant research? Where should we put it so that we can get it nice and pretty for,
We got it right at the end. That's not a problem. Right after housing support.
so we'll take out the and, we'll keep the comma, so access resources, comma, housing support. And
Grant research
grant research
along other partners, community partners.
yes. And collaboration with partnerships. Or, yeah. You got all that. When she asked what the final words are, it's coming from you.
Oh. All right, that works.
We go back to old number 3 real quick.
Yes.
Just the last, so it's, well, the whole sentence, there's a whole sentence, but the last time it says citizen complaint process, it actually says citizen compliant process in history of general outcomes.
Sure does.
So we should probably change that.
Compliant, however you spell it, we got to scratch the I in there, or,
Well, just flip the 2.
okay, so typo slash wordo that didn't get caught on spell check.
Is that so you
It's
complained?
supposed to be complaint, yeah.
Complaint. Mhm.
Good catch. Back to number 5, or to number 5. It reads $100,000 youth opportunities. Committee recommends creating youth opportunities, apprenticeships, internships, job shadowing, and paid positions where youth can learn, participate in public and civil engagement, and paid experience. I like how that sounds. Especially when we hear from people who's like, oh, the young people need more to do. And you hear people, when they suggest some ideas, they're like, oh, the city should give the young people more opportunities. And there's a lot of research and data that when people do have those opportunities, things to do, a job, community connections, that they do better. So I'm okay, with discussion about keeping the bullet point there.
Yeah, I think the mayor's transmittal letter addressed it, but not in its entirety.
Yeah.
So I would agree with keeping it.
Mhm.
Shall we?
I think one of the big things that we suffer from here in the city is a lot of our employees don't live here, didn't live here, that kind of stuff. So,
Shall we keep the same dollar amount?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's likely it would just be stipend, things like that.
Yeah. That dollar amount, $100,000, like for really what that bullet point represents and could be, not that there's some efforts, we have community centers and things, and youth sports, we have those as a city, but what that bullet point could be a big game changer. So I would recommend moving it up from $100,000. Just to show that this is more than $100,000 consideration.
It's an investment into our community and our youth. What are you thinking? Double it?
I mean, at least, but yeah, just at least so that the notes can reflect and that when you guys are there next year can reflect. But I mean, there's even ideas of cleaning up trash and getting paid for it. So there's a lot of things that could happen that could help the city. All right, so shall we? 250,000, anyone? Big time, $250,000.
We can put our wish list out there and see where it goes.
200,000, where you at? You guys good with that? All right. 250,000 with the footnote that, could even beautify the city or something. Moving on. Number 6, onboarding and DEI training. Committee recommends all departments and branches of local government boards and commissions receive onboarding and DEI training to ensure quality of work and culture, meeting role expectations.
City Attorney, do we know, is that part of the training? And we get, sexual harassment training and workplace safety. Is that part of the EI, is that part of onboarding now or not?
I would have to check on that and get you an answer.
I'd recommend keeping it until we find the answer, and then we can strike it at cow if that changes.
All right,
I think the
and
last time we asked that question from Human Resources, it was addressed that it was not happening. So,
okay,
but just to your
Yeah.
point, to get clarity,
I know we didn't get it
no.
in January.
Mm-mm.
so keep it on,
Yes.
and there's no dollar amount. We're all good with that.
Yeah, I think it's bundle it into our existing training modules.
Alrighty. Number 7 from last year, $150,000 disability inclusion. Committee recommends hiring a disability consultant to address the needs of persons with seen and unseen persons with disabilities.
I think we need to strike persons with after just before
Right.
disabilities.
Yeah.
And I also think
Sure.
striking everything that says consultant can, I think it's a pretty descriptive position already without doing all that. I mean, it doesn't bother me to keep it there, but we're cleaning it up.
All right, so I don't even have to read after consultant can, is what you're telling me?
Yeah,
All right, so I'm gonna go look back up there. $150 disability inclusion. Committee recommends hiring a disability consultant to address the needs of persons with disabilities.
yes.
All right,
Well, the needs of persons with seen and unseen
Seen and
disabilities,
unseen.
yeah.
okay, we
And
still want
strike the
that.
persons with.
Got it. You okay with that, Renee? Wonderful. And that was the last one from last year. Anything to talk about on the last ones from last year that we're gonna keep on or strike or modify? Does anybody have any to recommend to put on for this year or next year?
I've been working on some stuff, but it's more general for the committee as a whole.
Understood. Okay. Well, I am comfortable with moving this as we amended it, stricken and all that stuff without adding anything. And if anything comes up related to DEI beforehand, maybe we can still call a special meeting to talk about it or something. Or we can just bring it on the committee of the whole day.
Because we meet again
And you'll have two because
on the
you need
22nd.
the 22nd and approval is the 29th.
We'll have two.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
meet
Two
tonight.
cows, yeah.
Two
Okay,
two
to do it.
cows. Yeah.
All right,
and council.
perfect. Well, if anything comes up related to our discussion, or if you hear something from the public that you can bring forward, please do. Anything else for the good of the meeting? All right, meeting is adjourned.